You are juggling a lot. As a mom, you have so many roles and responsibilities. It can even be physically taxing. You have so many places to be, and of course, your family is such a high priority in your life. Is building a new skill really something you should care about doing in this already limited time of yours? My answer, as you can probably guess, is yes. In today's episode of the Solve for Mom podcast, I'm going to remind you why learning skills is important, even for busy moms. We're going to review some basic elements of learning, but in the context of real life as a mom. And then I'm going to share how even busy moms can build skills. So let's jump in. Welcome to the Solve for Mom podcast. Here, you'll learn to customize your life to fit your passions. Hi, I'm Anoki Kapasi. I'm a mom, wife, and PhD-trained biomedical researcher. After a decade of designing a values-based life, I'm ready to show you how you can too. I'll help you take back control of your purpose and passions, guide you to strategically pivot, set goals, build knowledge and skills for your project, and practice critical thinking. If you're ready to go questing for your passions, level up your learning, and confidently pursue projects while still being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this complex equation we call life, it's time to sharpen our pencils and our minds and solve for mom. As a mom, you've taken on the enormous job of being leaders of your household. You wear multiple hats as home managers, partners, parents. It's your job to teach, support, guide, and nurture the next generation. But somehow culturally, we've normalized the idea that we exchange our freedom and mental well-being when we become mothers. And I just don't agree with this. I believe moms can continue to fill these important societal roles while retaining their own identity, their personal life goals, and mental health. We can do this by nurturing our own skills and interests and passions alongside nurturing our families. Think of it this way. Why do our kids spend their day in school? To learn, gain knowledge and skills. Yeah, but why? For the opportunity and freedom that knowledge and skills bring them. It's an investment that families make in terms of time, energy, and oftentimes money, so that they have a future filled with opportunities and freedom to pursue and thrive on what they are passionate about. Well, the same goes for us when we learn skills in motherhood. We have to start thinking of learning and skill building as a lifelong process. Our passion projects require skills. We get introduced to new concepts, and then we build skills, and then we start honing in and refining those as we practice them. In doing so, not only are we more informed for making decisions, but we're also empowered to do more for ourselves and our families. So, skills and knowledge also afford us as moms opportunities and freedom. I hope we're all on the same page now about why it's important to continue to learn skills. Now let's talk about the features of learning. We can often categorize skills into two categories. They're the things that you need to do, have to do, and then they're the things that you want to do. So let's say in the case that my child has a gluten allergy, then I have to learn to cook gluten-free meals. However, I want to learn how to make pottery. Knowing those need tos and have tos from the want tos or like tos can help you prioritize which skills to focus on first. Another feature of skill building is that it can happen in many different environments. For example, there's a formal setting, such as classrooms or mentorships, where someone is assigned to you and checks in with you at a set frequency, but isn't present for your daily learning. You can have a practical environment where you're learning skills on the job, you're getting very hands-on experience, you're doing an internship or an apprenticeship, and then there are skills that you learn in a very informal and independent manner by observing experts, where you're teaching yourself, such as with hobbies, or some combinations of the formal, practical, and informal setup. I have engaged in a lot of training in my life. However, the vast majority of what I've learned to do, both the have-tos and the want-tos in terms of skills after I became a mom, have been a combination of practical, informal, or independent learning. Another feature is the order in which you receive the information. So when you take a class or a workshop, concepts are usually presented in a somewhat linear fashion. But learning in the real-world setting is not like that. Let's talk logistically first. We don't necessarily learn at a set time and frequency. Instead, we have to take advantage of windows of opportunity, like that beautiful golden hour when our kids are taking a nap. Often, we end up learning or practicing with other people around or in front of others, and that can be a little nerve-wracking. It often happens amidst our family obligations and chaos, so some multitasking might be involved as well. And then conceptually, learning is certainly not linear either. We no longer get information in nice, neat textbook chapters or PowerPoint slides that you can just file into a binder. Considering all of that, how then do you build a new skill as a busy mom? Well, I'm going to tell you about 5 tactics that I use to put skills into action in my busy mom life. When my youngest son was born, aside from motherhood, I triaged everything in my life. Work, friendship, fitness, hobbies, sleep, though that part kind of comes with the territory. But me time, passion projects, totally out of the question. I was a total stress ball, and the people in my life from back then know exactly what I'm talking about. My eldest son had gone from this textbook angel baby into the difficult throes of toddlerhood. I found myself really frustrated a lot by this change, and I just wanted to have peace and calm so that I could indulge in time with my new baby. And that's when I started to look into how I could evolve my parenting approach to a less punitive and more gentle, peaceful, and joyful approach. And though I didn't realize it at first, peaceful parenting basically became a new passion project for me. So I'm going to use this as the example of how, during a very emotionally and physically busy time, I was able to build new parenting skills. The first tactic is to learn about a new skill while doing other things. I call that skills bundling. Bundling is actually the concept of combining 2 tasks sort of into one in a way that's very complementary and synergistic. But I like to apply it for learning skills, and I do it all the time. So for example, back in those early days, I would read those parenting books while I was waiting, at pediatrician appointments and other waiting rooms. I would listen to parenting podcasts and audiobooks while I pushed my kids in the stroller. I still do that, but now I do it while I clean the house or drive or go for runs. Even 15 minutes gets you further than where you were before. And it's not just for information that you passively consume. Skills bundling works even better for practical skills. I remember this time when I was working on a collage for a personal project. And instead of using the software that I normally would have used, I actually used it as an opportunity to learn and explore Canva, which I had needed to gain some proficiency in anyways. When you start looking out there, there are so many opportunities for skills bundling. The next tactic is to create a new habit by attaching it to something that you already do regularly, which is often called habit stacking. Now, this big idea was popularized in the book Atomic Habits. The author James Clear explained how you can build a new habit by taking advantage of an old one. And I really like how he also lays out the neuroscience about why habit stacking works. Now, I'm not going to get into that here, but I had actually been doing this for years, even as a student, but I was doing it to build skills. And it really plays into my type A personality. So if that's you, this is a really good one for you then too. Back to my parenting project example. I was trying to create stronger connections by infusing more positive interactions and minimizing my yelling. And believe it or not, I had to practice connecting with my toddler, even though I just found it so natural and easy with babies. So every night, my toddler already had a very set bath and bedtime routine. And then I just took advantage of this consistently recurring set of events. So at bath time, instead of making it all business and trying to get him clean, I also took a good 15 minutes to just play with him and be silly. After he changed into his pajamas, instead of just reading 1 or 2 short books, I converted it to high quality 15 minutes, which was much more interactive, and we had such great conversations that were sparked by the books that we were reading. And then when we had our bedtime snuggles, when I tucked him in, I would quickly run a mental survey to see, did my day go with more positive interactions with him over negative ones? That would help set me up for the next day. Another habit stack I did was after nursing my baby. That was my cue to follow up with 15 minutes of playing with my toddler. That was a really great one because that was when my baby was most settled. And what I did was I had a bag of toys that wasn't available at all times. I would just bring it out after nursing, and I would let my toddler have access to it then. It would be very exciting, and we would just have such a great time playing. The third tactic is to just do your skills with your kids. I like this one because it brings your kids into your interests. They can start to see your perspective, they start experiencing what you experience, and it really allows you to bond. So it's really a win-win. Often, I think, oh, they're only going to want to participate for like 5 minutes. But I'm often surprised when we're actually well past that. Okay, confession, I am not a proficient cook. My husband is the cook in our family. Almost every time I cook in the kitchen, it's a learning experience. So what I do often is I bring one or both kids in and I say, hey, let's learn this together. And then it ends up often being two-way learning. I end up also teaching them about measurements and fractions and chemistry. So this one is just a very family-forward option. The fourth tactic, which is quite related to the last one, is to practice your skill by teaching it to your kids. Now, it only takes a couple minutes. Teaching is a really strong way to reinforce what you've already learned. It also gives you more confidence to talk about something that you're still trying to master. One of the big things I learned in gentle parenting styles is that parents have to learn to regulate our own emotions, because that in turn helps our kids to learn emotional regulation. So when I would get triggered, I would have to make this concerted effort to practice emotional regulation, and I would make sure to do that in front of my kids. Even years later, I still find this a very hard thing to do. But when I got better at it, I did notice that my kids did too. I was actually practicing in front of them and modeling it, and in doing so, I was teaching them how to do it too, and we were all experiencing this growth together. The fifth tactic is envisioning. This is when you picture in your mind practicing your skill effortlessly and flawlessly. It's kind of like a walkthrough. You're manifesting the idea that you can do this skill. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but lots of famous people that you probably know of have credited this technique as playing a big part in their success. I actually learned this one from back in my competitive gymnastics days. My coaches actually told me to picture my routines. Okay, you're a busy mom, not a gymnast, I know. But that's the point. You're a busy mom. You can't always make it out to your boxing class. Maybe you can practice a new combo in your head dozens of times so that it's perfect for your next session. When I felt like I had been resorting to barking orders at my kids too much, I would picture my day after waking up where I wasn't yelling or raising my voice. I would practice the calmness and maturity in my head. I would envision it. It was practically meditative. So bam, I hadn't even started my day and I practiced a skill. I wasn't even out of my bed at that point. Okay, here's another example. I mentioned that I'm not a confident cook. It's really quite stressful for me when I have to cook for others. And to add pressure, I'm surrounded by a lot of great cooks on both sides of my family. But when I do have to host and prepare meals for others, I'm very methodical. I make a list of what I have to get and what I have to do and in what order. Then I take that list and I go through every step in my head. What do I have to cut? What pan am I going to use? If I'm cooking multiple dishes, what's going to go in the oven first? I even picture what the meal is going to look like on the table and what it smells like. You can really do this at any time, and 15 minutes is more than enough. You can do this while you're driving, before bed, waiting in line, in an elevator. You get the idea. It is so simple, but so powerful. And it allows you to be positive about a skill and a perfect outcome. And you gain your confidence about what your method's going to be. You can even use it to plan how to avoid pitfalls before you've even encountered them. Envisioning helps you gain discipline for your skill and your technique. After bundling and habit stacking, I probably do this the most. Okay, ladies, I downloaded a lot of information. To recap, we talked about why learning is important for busy moms, how it brings opportunity and freedom to our lives, and some of the features of learning in the realities of motherhood. And then I shared 5 quick and easy to implement tactics to learning a new skill. Those are skills bundling, habit stacking, doing it with your family or teaching it to your kids, and envisioning. I want you to get comfortable with one technique and then try to add in another. And really, have fun with them. Be creative. Of course, the most important part about skills is to take action. The worst thing you can do is what I did early in my motherhood. I made this false assumption that I just don't have time. If I couldn't spend hours working on something I was passionate about, it just wasn't worth doing at all. Practicing and doing it, imperfectly as it may be, with all the chaos around you, is way better than just passive learning. You also learn faster when you're practicing rather than just consuming information. And remember, it's a journey. So for example, my parenting style has continued to evolve as I've learned from more experts and practiced more skills, and I've started to figure out what works and doesn't work for my family. Stick with me. I will empower you to do the same with whatever skills you feel pulled to learn. I hope today's episode will help you pursue your next passion project. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other ambitious mamas about it. Who knows, you might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review in Apple Podcasts. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. Thank you for making my show a part of your day. I hope you join me next week for another episode of the Solve for Mom podcast with Enoki Kapasi.